Alright, baby hearts and munchkin butts. Today's date is March, what is it, baby? It's March 29th, 2021, and we are all living through appears to be more and more control as a direct result of reported COVID-19. Bear with me a few minutes here, because I gotta hold this phone until I can get it propped up in a position to where it doesn't. I'm in an area right now. Hold on one second. I'm trying to get up my phone cord. Bear with me a second. What was I saying? Oh yeah. I'm at a where I'm experiencing massive cell phone signal jamming through gang stalking crimes. Now, my fellow American citizens, at any time that this video stops broadcasting, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Still research what I've stated up to that point, and absolutely make sure that you bring up the YouTube video that's dedicated to the YouTube URL link pasted in the title of this Periscope video. So bear with me, and I do apologize my little intermittent postures, but you know, I think I act comical sometimes in order to keep my spirits up. Gang stalking victims are forced to endure so much trauma, including just through the community-based harassment connected to this crime. There's so much psychological violence connected to just that in of itself. So just bear with me, because sweethearts and baby cakes, I seem to not have too much of a problem being able to keep myself when the phone is positioned at this point. But I want to still get some things done while I'm talking to you, so you're just going to have to bear with me a minute or two here until I can find the things needed to prop up the phone so I don't have to hold it. And so let me see how this works. Bear with me, butts, because I will be moving forward pertaining to the subject matter as soon as that particular thing is accomplished. You also should know that Periscope videos cause my phone to go through a lot of battery. So after I get this propped up, I'm going to get up in order to, hold on, because I decided to make, hold on one second. I decided to make this video as a result of me getting some projects done and then turning on the phone, looking at what time it was, and then from there I made the conclusion that I have enough time in my schedule today to make a video, but I still want to be able to get some things done while I'm talking to you, so which is why I went through everything I just went through. Just bear with me. Alright, so I got to get up to go get a charger. So once I get up and get that plugged into the phone, I'll segue into the subject matter. So just give me about 15 seconds. Oh! So I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope everybody out there is staying safe and being good to each other. And trust me, I know that there's tens of people in America right now being extremely affected because of the lockdowns connected to COVID-19. So please, no matter what you are going through, and trust me, there's massive amounts of people within America that are going through extremely hard times because of the effects. And let me just make sure that the charger got plugged in. Bear with me a second, okay? Everything seems copacetic. And periodically throughout this video, I will be doing this I'm still live broadcasting, because I have made videos before. And then I went to go conclude when I picked up the phone, I realized that what was on the screen, which is basically showing me what the camera's picking up, was nothing but a still frame. And trust me when I say I have been through so much connected to this friggin' crime. And you gotta remember, gang stalking wants you to notice what it does. In fact, that's even going to be part of some of my statements that I make in this video. So you can see that the relevance of that particular aspect of this crime, which you'll understand as I continue. Now, when you experience something over and over again, let me give you like a bit of information so you can understand what I mean. I'm not going to get into a long, drawn-out, detailed discussion concerning it, because that will take too much time as well. On many occasions, areas, this crime made me homeless from 4 apartments in Tennessee. So, at many wooded areas, when they would prop up, like, I'll just refer to one specific wooded area. It was one that I was utilizing for quite some time, which has been massively discussed within videos dedicated to this and others. I got 5 separate Periscope accounts. So, When I was utilizing that one wooded area, which I referred to as the octopus tree location, because it literally had a tree on the property that literally, I mean, literally like an octopus. So you got to understand something here real fast. I'm a woman who was made through a crime that is connected to extreme crime motivations, including human trafficking. So you can't, and when you look at law enforcement's massively implicated connection to, well, I mean, come on, staged probable cause brought about through illegal tracking, stage an event against you and arrest you. So if you make, and they can easily come up with any reason, which they have already done, which occurred back in 2012, to make it appear they have a normal appearing reasons to know that your videos are online. So if you're a woman that you're being tracked through this crime, where you're at a wooded area, well, since they're staging events to which can and have led to arrest, then you got to be very skillful about keeping private. And I'm not gonna, if I went into a lot of details concerning, totally understand, but I don't have time for that. So just hear me out. So when I get to wooded areas, sometimes when I make my videos, I'll make predictions of assaults, arrests, tickets, trespass notices put on my property, property theft. Okay, I make a prediction at 9 a.m. on tomorrow's date, and then that prediction, anybody that's got the ability to engage in common sense processing will say there's no way that's an accident. Okay, so when I make videos at a location and I say that I'm at a location, I'm not there no longer, but that's just, you know, the way I'm putting it, consumer exposure. And then, so if I'm at the octopus tree location and I make a prediction that I'm going to be arrested tomorrow or within a week, and I get arrested at that location tomorrow or within a week, which has absolutely happened, but it just happened at other areas, I think anybody that's got the ability, again, to engage in common sense deliberations, that there's no way that's an accident. And then when you take that event and fold it on all the other massive things that have been predicted, again, that I predicted before they happened, you will know that the current event was staged because it was predicted. But I can't disclose the actual physical location because then they can stage an event through normal apparent excuses and then say, well, look, we caught you engaging in illegal encroachment, illegal lodging. And so you can't claim that you're not involved in illegal lodging because, look, you're tent. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, there were many days at the octopus tree location where I took the tent down so they could still then get me for illegal encroachment or so I don't want to, if I want to be able to defend myself in court, since I know it's a staged event, okay, I want to be able to, you know, to say, look, you know, prove it. You know, prove it. So, on some of my videos, I showed at the octopus tree location with my tent. Those dates, I couldn't deny it. And make no mistake about it, they got many that your tent's up. So that's one of the main, I know that you're probably walking away with small holes in your understanding concerning this particular description, but trust me, if I went on into the details thoroughly, understand with common sense and with critical thinking deliberation, oh, absolutely. Hold on. Oh, absolutely. This is deductive and inductive reasoning would slam the door in the face of all the criminal liars that would play a role in a staged event that has and will happen to me in the future at any wooded area, my routes. My predictions have turned out to be an extremely effective way to prove that this crime is being culpably managed and creatively executed concerning many of the things that they have done and are still doing. So just the only way is just watch my videos, follow my instructions, and over time you will see massive evidences because I have literally incorporated massive evidence information within my videos, verbally and through pasted links in their titles. So, yeah. Why did I decide to make this video in reference to the computer to brain link? I strongly suggest you go get a pen and piece of paper and write down my descriptions. That way you can go back and watch a video for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, because I don't know how long the video is going to be. But if I make a statement at an hour into the video, I don't want you to have to feel like you got to come back and say, okay, when did she make that statement so I can research it when I got 10 minutes of free time. So that's why I strongly, I know everybody's schedule is hectic. Go get a pen, piece of paper. I'm literally going to give you a minute to go do that. That way you don't have to watch the entire video in order to get a nugget of information you might want to get to immediately research. Trust me on that, okay? So while you're doing that, I'm going to just light my cigarette. And yes, I am going to stop smoking pretty soon because I can't afford it. It's not good for my health. And the other good reasons why. So just bear with me. Trust me, when you start seeing my videos, when you start hearing my descriptions, when you hear the details related to descriptions, you will absolutely be glad you ran a video. So, and this account, and it will literally consciously you indisputably to go into the profile of this account. Now, we all know that Periscope is going to not allow anyone to broadcast anymore, effective 1.5 days. Today's the 29th of March, 2021. Ability will stop at midnight on March 31st, 2021. So that's in a day and a half. I'm in San Diego, California, so my time is, and right now the time I think is a little bit after 2 p.m. It's at 31 p.m. Okay, so you know, I wanted to make this video to get the information out there so you can kind of see what's it. I have to say things carefully because you got to remember this is a crime that will also absolutely and is intentionally criminally labeling gang stalking victims, any and all gang stalking victims over time. They will criminally label gang stalking victims to have one or more mental illnesses in order for many reasons. One reason can be for eventual illegal probate control schemes, insurance purposes, insurance fraud schemes, and human trafficking. Other ones so that the other additional motivations can be discredited in court. If the victim says, proof of this, I got proof of that, I even got audio and video proof of this or that. Well, they'll first say that when you verbalize your descriptions in a complaint, they can then turn around and say, well, from the nature of what your complaint says, we want to make sure you go see a doctor first. And if you already have any falsified diagnoses on your record because of this crime, well, then they can just petition those records and then use them in the theater that they play out in court so that the complaint never even gets off the ground so evidence can be seen. That's literally how bad this crime is. Literally, so you should read descriptions, judges, courts, police officers, because they will also play a role in state lead you to having to go to court. Okay? So there's many different reasons why gang stalking victims are being intentionally, with complete malice of forethought, falsely diagnosed with mental disorders that they do not have at all. At all. Okay? So you should, the psychiatric reprisal, Google all my statements that I described to gang stalking. Segue into, I forgot to let me segue, so let me do that real fast and we'll segue the subject matter of this particular crime. Now, if you don't know anything about gang stalking and you start hearing my descriptions, you might think to yourself, what the hell is this? This sounds too crazy. This sounds totally bizarre. There's no way it's happening, and whatever other thought that you may have. Well, sweet baby cakes, all you got to do is write down the descriptions and thoroughly research them. And then the supporting details I give you will help you see that the details are the truth, I got to remember carefully, because if you say this is actually happening, they can take your statement and say, look what she's stating. These statements come from the symptomologies of a mental illness, because that's how they're protecting their crimes in part. Okay, and that's how they're also victims. Okay, so you got to understand something about these sick, demonic, human trafficking, rape, and animals. They will go to any and all lengths to protect what they've done, what they're doing to each victim at all times, and they will make sure that they have no problem whatsoever in trapping a slavery, into jail, into group homes for 30, 40 years, the rest of their entire lives, just to make sure that victim is corralled within an environment that they can't escape from, so they can then not do what they need to do to get uncorrupted legal assistance. Oh, absolutely. Okay, these people are the most demonic rats who have ever walked this. Literally seen scientists, doctors, researchers, people with PhDs say this. So trust me when I say, when you research what I expose extensively, each description is a piece of the puzzle. Okay? And when you do the thorough research of each description, you will have a better pictorial visualization in your mind, and you will have the information will back it up. So the picture is true. So, now, my fellow American citizens, hold on 1 second, because my favorite neighborhood squirrel's here, and I'm going to feed him before he takes off. Just bear with me, because this crime has got me socially isolated, so I friends with the birds and the squirrels, and on occasion a raccoon. Hold on. Here you go, baby. Alright, I'd pick up the phone and show you them, but then I don't want to lose my signal. Now, my fellow, those things that I've already said, I apologize, it's taken a minute to get matter, but you needed to hear everything I just said. Gang stalking is such an insidious crime. There's a lot of psychological deception involved in it. There's a lot of mis- and disinformation online concerning this crime. And there's a lot of dis to it, which is why the crime is so, at least initially, psychologically disorientating for each victim. And you'll understand that as I continue to talk. I am now going into the subject matter as soon as I light this cigarette, which I'm putting in my mouth right now. Now, when you go to Google, many descriptions will also yield a lot of information through YouTube as well. And I've already explained why you might not be able to get huge truckload of information on YouTube that you would through Google in prior videos. So, like if you were to type in computer-brain interface and gang stalking, you will get some links. Oh, absolutely. You will get some videos. You will get information of videos that are online that are not dedicated to gang stalking, but are dedicated to computer-to-brain link implants. You should also research that to DARPA, RPA, when you do research on your Google and YouTube. But the way the internet is set up, you might not be able to get massive truckloads of information at YouTube like you would through Google. And that's because of the way Google, and who owns YouTube, searches for things that you keyword in. So just trust me, just be patient, and then you'll eventually know how to dig that further information out through YouTube once you start diving into the research of my descriptions. So let me now put the cigarette out. Oh, excuse me, please. So, what I'm about ready to tell you is just an introduction. It's a preliminary introduction to. It's a preliminary. It's more than a summary, but I'm going to give you enough information to where you're going to be able to walk away with a layman's pictorial understanding concerning what's being presented. So trust me, stay with this video. Here we go. Now, so gang stalking victims all over the internet by the tens stating that they're being subject to a whole host of different extreme crimes, which also includes torture. The United Nations did declare gang stalking victims as being extreme torture victims in the Cyber Torture Report that was released in February and March of 2000. Okay, and the reason why, and from what I've been told on the internet, the term cyber was used to name the report, Cyber Torture Report, is because that's an abbreviated term. Why? I'll briefly talk about that. This is all necessary. So, why is because cyber stands for two things. First, for the word cybernetics, which is connected to some of the transhumanism, non-consensual human experimentation projects occurring to gang stalking victims, which also includes the computer-to-brain, also includes brain implants and many others. Just hear me out. Okay. But yet it also stands for the psychological violence that we endure through the internet, which is the cyber world. Okay? Because we are trolled online on all online platforms. They'll get online and leave a negative YouTube comment videos that have been only online for 3 seconds. That's how bad this is. Literally. The video hasn't even been titled yet, and they're already leaving psychologically abusive comments on the YouTube video that has just been online 3 seconds ago, and they'll already get online that fast and put a negative comment on that video. Oh, he's a schizophrenic. Oh, don't listen to him. He's a social deviant. Blah blah blah. Because they know a lot of victims. There's at times in victims targeting in their experiences where they start mental support. Even if it's just through strangers, because there's so much massive, because there's so much massive psychological violence and trauma occurring to each victim, they have no support. Okay, because they're eventually socially isolated intentionally. You cannot torture a human being for decades at a time, every single day of every single month, throughout that span of that decade, if that is social support. Because then other people in their lives is witnessing what the victim is enduring through the community-based harassment and through any types of remote technologies that can be perpetrated from a remote distance to the target's brain, and if that targeting is producing outwardly physically apparent results, like burns, scars, surgical scars from the implants and stuff like that. So when you got a human being that's got friends that decide to stick with the family members that decide to uncorruptly stick with the victim, friends that decide to uncorruptly stick with the victims. Google family infiltration and social infiltration to gang stalking. Well then, it makes it harder for the perpetrators to get away with every single thing, especially when it comes to the community-based harassment, which is directly connected to massive visual and brain entrainment. Hold on one more second. I'm talking fast intentionally in order to give as many details as possible. So, I wanted you to know that a lot of times they do upload evidence videos or exposure videos online. They will scroll through their YouTube comments just for the sake of somebody saying something nice and supportive. Okay? You got to also remember that when gang stalking victims are allowed to corrupted, non-abusive relationships, when you are in a relationship with anybody that is healthy, your brain generates healthy neuronal responses. Those healthy neuronal responses interfere with the entrainment. So that's another matter why gang stalking victims are being intentionally socially isolated, and that through many means, slander, and infiltration, and a bunch of other techniques that these mass murdering demonic rats are doing to hundreds of thousands of America. Tens of thousands of those are online exposing what they endure. So, brain-to-computer interface and brain-to-computer interface implants in gang stalking victims, many of the diagrams, at least that show you a representation, are online. Okay, you can also feel free to site that's called United Targeted Individuals Europe.com. That's all one word. I suggest you type it in lowercase. United Targeted Individuals Europe.com. Okay? Spell it in the way you say it. Okay? Individuals is plural. Targeted ED. Okay, so United Targeted Individuals Europe.com, all one word. And thoroughly look at what's on their website, even though the last time I looked on their website, it didn't have as good as information on it that it did before. Still will see quite a bit of stuff that you need to see. And they also got a YouTube line that's called, when you go to YouTube search box, type in United Targeted Individuals Europe Extended Version. Okay? So, getting back to the brain-to-computer interface, when you type in brain-to-computer interface, BCI, that's the acronym for it, BCI interface, you should also, to gang stalking, you're gonna get a lot of information come up. Then when you type in brain-to-computer interface implants to gang stalking, including to remote neural monitoring, but you can type it in without remote neural monitoring, you're going to learn that it's being widely mass gang stalking victims, their brains are being remotely neurally interacted with a technology with a technology that's called remote neural monitoring. Remote neural monitoring enables you to monitor you neurally remotely from a remote distance, and features and functions within remote neural monitoring that allow them to neurally influence the victim. So you should also research remote neural influencing and remote neural monitoring. Now, so let me give you an idea here concerning what is being concerning how remote neural monitoring is being used with other identified technology that is reported on the internet. So, brain-to-computer interface and brain-to-computer interface, a lot of that is going on with the implicated brain implants that are being put in gang stalking victims. Now, you can have concerning some of the pictorial pictures you're going to see on the internet, especially through. You're going to see one pictorial image that shows. You definitely want to click on videos and blogs that come up when you type those terms in. Okay? Because there's even galleries that are on Google that will enable you to see the pictures of different implants and related text and even pictures concerning those images. So, that's a good thing to know. So, all right. Now, brain-to-computer interface can have brain-to-computer interface implants assisting it. It's been widely reported remote neural monitoring does no longer need implants to neurally interface with you because they're neurally hacking the biomagnetic resonance frequency of the brain. Technology can interface with the functionalities of each part of the brain, the entire brain. But implants are also very relevant concerning this aspect of this crime and that technology, because of the simple fact that the implants assist them in the brain entrainment and the monitoring of the processes, of the neural processes, the photonic signal brain processes, how the brain is processing EEG signatures, emotional cluster frequencies, EEG signature frequencies, brain states, and the whole 9 yards. And talking about massive extreme crimes that would just make you want to get up off your couch if you knew the totality of them and instantly riot once you saw the entire scope of this crime in reference to my descriptions and what's exposed online concerning the neural manipulation and all the other sick demonic crap that's going on concerning what these filthy animals are doing to victims. I mean, it's demonic. The measure of demonic behavior these satanic rats are doing to victims can be mathematically quantified, meaning there's no mathematical equation or summation that can measure the depth of depravity connected to these demented animals. That is literally what crime is. Okay? Now, let's talk about brain-to-computer interface implants, voice-to-skull, including voice-to-skull with voice. The fact that it's being widely reported that the implants and the brain-to-computer interface, whether there's implants or not, is connected to a supercomputer, which is run by AI. You got to also know that it's widely reported that this computer has the integrated techs that are also the other. If you got one big computer, and you take that computer and you say, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to achieve, these are our motives, and then to achieve, make those achievements in order for them to be able to achieve those motives, they realize that they have to have the other technologies that are reported to be used in gang-stalking crimes, like sound spread spectrum, voice-to-skull with voice microwave hearing effect. What else do we got? Holosonics, the audio spotlight, and when you research these, you'll discover the names of other techs. So you can features and functions of these other techs and incorporate it within one integrated system in that supercomputer, so that functions and features of all these different techs can work simultaneously or in concert with the functions of remote neural monitoring. You should also research eye lens implants, ear implants, nasal implants, throat implants, EMG musculatory implants, prosthetic implants, stimulated responsive implants to gang stalking as well as implants are reported to be put in the penises of men, the vaginas of women, rectum. One victim can have over 100 implants in nanotechnology as well. Because if you were to sit down and take out a piece of paper, all this matters, so just trust me, you'll start to see some here pretty soon. So if you were to take a piece of paper, yourself, I'm going to draw an outline of a human body, just the outline, like a child does. Or if you've ever watched a crime movie and you saw the police chalk line of a human body on a sidewalk because somebody just got killed, and they drew an outline of his body concerning where it was laid at and how it was laid down. So if you were to take a piece of paper and draw the outline, just a pencil outline of a human body, you got to understand that from the very head down to the very edge of your toe incorporates your entire body. Now they can put implants in every single part of the brain and body, so that every single thing the body does, single thing the brain processes, including the central nervous system, can be monitored by these 6 satanic mass murdering animals. So that they can, I've seen testimony of victims where victims have stated that voice harassed them because they were blinking their eyes. Well, because when you eye, that is a signal that is sent through an automated, because there's a lot of automatic things that your body does without deliberation. Do you really think when you sit back and say to yourself, I'm going to blinking my eye, in order for you to blink your eye like you do thousands of times a day? Most people are not consciously aware when they're breaking their eye, and even consciously aware it's occurring, they immediately dismiss it because it's an automated response. You have many biological functions that are automated responses. Okay? Just automated responses, if you want to, you can research that concerning these, the neurological functions responsible for it, like turning your head. You might think to yourself, I got to get up and go and get something, and you might think to yourself, where did I put it? And you look, but the turning of the head to look is a response, because the brain is already programmed what signals to send that are responsible for you turning your head. So you don't have to give a verbal command, I need to turn my head. So if you say to yourself, I left my cigarette lighter over there, to turn your head to look, you're not telling your head to turn your head to look, you just look. Those are automated responses. Just like it's an automated response for you to ride your bike without how to do it. Now that is relevant, and you'll eventually see how it's relevant when you start testimonies of gang stalking victims, like when Romola D interviewed Chris Burton, and he exposed in the 4-part video series that used to be on. I'm having a hard time finding her videos now. It showed an interview with Chris. He said he was being harassed through Voice to Skull about his breathing. Well, your breathing is related to your heart rate, as well as your pulse, as far as I can, tell from very slight educated knowledge I have concerning breathing. Okay, but I wanted to tell you these additional little tidbits is because it's being widely reported that gang stalking victims are being mentally harassed about every single thing, their processes, like their breathing, their thoughts, decision making, their actions, and if they this crime will even, concerning what's reported, and then this crime will even go as far as harass you about things that you're not doing if they see the other things they're harassing you about is not producing the electrical response that they're looking for. Okay? Oh, absolutely. Because you can't, being on this planet, can be subjected to auditorial brain entrainment if the brain is forced to hear identical repeated statements, harassment, threats, abusive statements, abusive harassment, very descriptive type threats, and so on. Because you got to remember, another aspect of this crime is not only just brain entrainment, but also brain entrainment, so that these entrainments take place from the limbic system to brain fear, anxiousness, even to disassociated states. Because a lot of harassment's going on to gang stalking victims, and certain things are being anchored for through their hearing and their sight when they're being traumatized through a staged event, include staged rapes. And I've talked about that in previous videos as well. So you got to understand that the extreme the extreme violence, the extreme crimes, the extreme intentionally perpetrated traumas connected to this crime, it's done because of entrainment purposes, visual and auditory entrainment, and it's done in order to excite brain states, emotions. Those emotions have emotional cluster frequencies, thinking responses, because those thinking have EEG signature frequencies, and that's how you could create the entrainment. Now, if you want to understand entrainment extensively, go into the profile of this account in your mind. Absolutely baby cakes and sweethearts and munchkin butts. So, the AI is running the computer. It deciphers what the victim is processing, including their subvocal speech. Now, your subvocal speech, from what I understand, is things. I know it's related to the throat because we process a lot of our through our larynx and our voice box and our throat through our speech signals in our throat. But you should also know that language can also be deciphered through the subconscious brain, and it can also be deciphered as a result of them monitoring the audio cortex of the victim. So, and if the victim has got an ear implant of any kind, whether it be a cochlear ear implant, cochlear, and or a nano audio implant, well then they can hear through your ears. Why is two of the main functions of remote neural monitoring? It enables the perpetrators to be able to see through the eyes of the victims and hear through their ears. Well, is it also because they're monitoring the visual and audio cortex by subjecting the victim to the computer to brain link connected to remote neural monitoring? So you see, there's so much in play here. And I'm going to be giving you enough information, and I am, that will lead to you to an eventual preliminary pictorial representation in your mind pertaining to the subject matter. So let me give you some examples concerning mass murdering animals can do to victims. Uh, if you now there was one thing that I was noticing concerning a specific victim's experience, and I wanted to make a video and include it, but my memory concerning it right now is totally blank. And that reminds me, you should also go to Google and type in remote neural memory mapping, memory stimulation, and memory blanking. So anyways, so let me just continue to talk, and hopefully that thing I was referring to will come to mind. So now, okay, so, oh, I remember now. Okay, so check this out. When you see the pictorial images that you get through Google, when you type in brain-to-computer interface and remote neural monitoring and gang stalking, you're going to eventually run across some images that show a human head, the profile of a human head, and it's going to show, if you look very closely, like if you take a snap screenshot of it and then zoom in on it, you should be able to see there's an implant in the deep center part of the brain, and then an antenna lead that runs up through the middle of the brain that goes onto the top of the head. And, there's many videos, there's many internet showing gang stalking victims openly state, either in their blogs or YouTube videos or whatever, openly state that they massively experience electronic stimuli on the top of their head. Well, is that because a specific radio frequency acts as that it can also be considered a current, is being sent to that antenna lead so they can gain that neurological access? Okay? Because it's an antenna, and the implant itself that is stemming from the antenna is interfacing neurologically with all the brain's functions. So in order for them to be able to read what the victim's brain is processing, they got to be able to access the implant through the antenna. Okay? So when you type in brain-to-computer and remote neural monitoring and gang stalking, you're going to eventually see pictorial images of that implant. And then on the pictorial image, as long as you can get a good one, text that's located right by the picture of the head that shows you parts of the being accessed, and you should also see that pacemakers are being put in the brain, in the chest of victims, and that's possibly being done to use the pacemaker as a battery, but to also monitor the heart rate, and the heart rate can possibly be a pacemaker, and then using the pacemaker as an extended battery, and you what's going on in the hood. Oh, absolutely. So now, so let's say if you got a gang stalking victim that's got remote neural monitoring implants in their eyes, put there non-consensually. They can break into your home, they can stage a vehicle accident, causing you to go to the hospital and saying you need surgery, or you end up going to the hospital while you're unconscious and do it. You can go to the hospital, any other type of elective surgery for any other purpose, and then have it done to you, knowing it, including the other implants that I'm talking about as well. In fact, let me interject something here real fast, because these tidbits of information should also be brought to your attention concerning this. Look at how many movies are out there dedicated that show brain implants in them. Some of the latest Mission Impossible movies, some of the latest Stop 007 movies, the James Bond movies, recent ones that were made like in the past 10, 15 years. Okay? What else? The movie Inception and Avatar is about mind uploading. Google that description to remote neural monitoring. I know it's blowing your mind if you've never heard it before, but just research it and your mind is really going to be blown. Oh, absolutely. What other movies? The Manchurian Candidate with Denzel Washington. That movie, you would not believe how much that movie is true. Oh, absolutely. And you would not, and trust me when I say, if I had time to detail it, you would totally see it. In fact, I might even dip into it a little bit in reference to my descriptions. All right, now hold on. I got to put on the shirt because I'm sitting in the shade right now, and there's a breeze going on at the location I'm at, so it was a little cold. Now, so let me give an example how effective the ear implants, the nasal implants, okay, the ear implants, the nasal implants, the eyelids implants, and all the other implants that are put in any gang stalk can directly interface with, well, whatever is seen through the eyes is seen in the visual. And if you're being remotely neurally monitored with or without a brain implant, they can see your visual cortex and take that information. They can also, hold on, they can also send visual imagery to those eye lens implants. Because think about this. Right now, put the phone up just for a second. And you're seeing my finger go back and forth over the camera lens, right? You're seeing that with your retina. That visual image is then sent through your optical nerve to your visual cortex. And you see it in your visual cortex, and you just think to yourself, okay, I'm seeing it. Seeing it in your mind. And that's your visual cortex. Well, some of these remote neural monitoring lens implants that they can put in victims' eyes enables them to see everything that they can see. But they can also send visual imagery to it. Hang on a second. Still shots, like still frame shots, and they can send visual streams, in a video format, a live video format, just like you're seeing a movie. Oh, absolutely. So you profile this account, look for the video. It was just made here, in the past 10 days. That shows the Techno Crime Fighters video series, video number 58. It's YouTube link in the title of it. It was just made here in the last 10 days, so trust me, you're not going to it's not going to take it. Now, so, say if you got a victim who's got a neural monitoring eye lens implant in their eyes, whatever the victim sees goes back to the remote neural monitoring. So, you can have let's say if you got a victim who smokes Marlboro cigarettes, okay? Just in case you're not with cigarettes at all, let me just show you what a pack of Marlboros looks like. Okay? Alright, hold on. So this is a pack of Marlboros. Okay? So, if you got remote neural monitoring eye lens implants in your eyes, what they can program the computer that is interfacing with the brain, that is also interfacing with the visual cortex and or the remote neural monitoring eye lens implants. Because whatever the remote neural monitoring eye lens implants sees when the victim is looking at anything gets transferred to the cortex. So, say if you got a victim of gang stalking who smokes, and therefore then they're going to take out that pack of Winston one or more times throughout the day. So then what they can do then is take a still frame picture of a pack of Winston and put it in the computer. And therefore, then, anytime the victim pulls out their pack of Winston, that will get transferred to the retina nerve, to the optical nerve, to the visual cortex. And then, since the remote neural monitoring is interfacing with the victim, whenever the computer reads out that the visual cortex has a package of Winston cigarettes, it will then execute a function. So then that function, whatever it is, and I'll talk about that in a minute, can then be sent back to the victim. Now, what did I say a few minutes ago? I literally openly said, this crime is massively reported that there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of victims all over the internet who are experiencing gang stalking crimes, who state they're experiencing voice to skull, including voice to skull with voice morph, which means that you hear my voice print right now. They can take my voice print, anybody's voice print, and put it into a computer. And then, voice morphing is shown so you can see what it is. It's shown in many movies made through Hollywood. I'm going to give you the name of 3 movies you can watch for no more than $3.99 through YouTube. Terminator 1 and 2, and the movie Untraceable. I like to direct people to the movie Untraceable, because in the movie Untraceable, this guy who's committing these murders is criminally insane. He's murdering, he murdered one FBI agent and then attempted to murder a second. And the way he was able to trap him so he could set him up to get a hold of him to murder him was that he was monitoring the agent's cell phone. Okay? And then, so he was able to see the numbers received and the numbers called. So this particular FBI agent, he was a male, so he was dating quite a bit. And he was dating this one woman. Guy was able to get a hold of his cell phone number, and he was able to see who he was talking to in real time as the conversations were occurring, or he can just call up a person that has called and wait until that person answers the phone and then harvest their voice print. So what this crime does is that it can take the voice print of anybody, okay, and put it in a computer, and then they can either type something in on the software program that's running the morphing, or they can say something into a microphone that's connected to the computer, and whatever is set into the microphone will come out in that person's voice. So I'm saying right now, tomorrow I'm going to go to Walmart and get some inner tubes. I'm not going to, but I'm just here. So I can say, I'm going to go to Walmart tomorrow and get some inner tubes. They can transfer that into a gang stalking victim's audio cortex and their own voice print a day after the victim has discovered their bicycle tire is crashed. So they're presenting it back to, they're doing that to the victim to make it, that's their thought about how to fix the problem. So that the victim then can be set up for a staged event along their routes to Walmart's or at Walmart or coming back from Walmart. Okay? So that's, why do you think when you type in at Google, gang stalking, voice to skull, your thoughts are no longer your own? That's voice morphing. Let me get some water here. Hold on a second. Now this all is related. What you're hearing is each description is a piece of the puzzle of the subject matter. So you need to hear all this. So bear with me a second. Now in a minute or two, I got to get up and reorientate my solar panels. So I'm going to have to take a break. So be prepared for that. And let's see if this phone gets jammed. Remember, let's see if this phone gets jammed so I cannot expose the thing. I mean, no, I'm sorry. Let's see if this phone gets jammed that you will not be able to hear the full thing that I'm attempting to expose. Now, so, okay. Now, so, if the who smokes Winston's cigarettes gets out their pack of Winston's so they can take it from the pack so they can light it up, once that victim sees through their eyes their package of cigarettes, that visual image gets sent to the computer facing with the brain. It then can be programmed to function almost simultaneously, because it does at the speed of light, concerning what's being reported, so that the victim will then seemingly instantly hear, skull, why is he going to have a cigarette? What's wrong with him? Okay? Now, when you look at all the different facial recognition technology, hold on a second. Excuse me. If you had any idea about what was going on concerning our intelligence community, sophisticated technologies that they have outside of remote neural monitoring and all these other demonic techs, we're talking about facial recognition, voice recognition, right? So whenever a victim might say to themselves, I'm going to get up and go make something to eat, they're hearing that in their audio cortex. The audio cortex can be monitored. Information then is sent to the computer. The computer deciphers it, just like a speech-to-text translation at Google. When you go to Google and you type and you use the microphone to do a search, so say if you go to Google search box right now, little itty-bitty microphone symbol. If you were to press on that and then say, closest pizzeria, okay, to the road you're living by, okay? So you can find a pizzeria that's right by your home. So if you went to Google and you typed in and you used the to say, where's the closest Domino's to your address, and press enter, well, Google is going to take that voice of you giving Google those instructions verbally, and then you're going to see the text of what you said in the Google search box. Well, actually, that's the way it goes. And then what you say appears as text in Google search box, and then you hit enter. So when a victim says something to themselves, and if they're monitoring the subvocal speech, monitoring the audio cortex, whether the victim says it to themselves internally and or language, they're able to hear that. Now then the computer is responsible for voice to text translation. The computer then looks at the theme text and then says, so like say if you got a victim that says to themselves, I'm going to go to Domino's, well then that's instantly translated into text. The computer then translates the theme of the text, what the text means, and then it will compose structured sentences and phrases to harass the victim about the theme of the text. So if you say, oh, if I'm going to go to Domino's and get a pizza, the computer is literally reading that, and then the voice to skull is, because the computer is already set up so that whenever anything is read from the victim, it's already set up so that voice to structure a sentence to spit back to the victim based on the theme of the text. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to go to Walmart and get an inner tube, they're instantly reading this because the data-bit transfer rate of remote neural monitoring is trillions of concerning what's reported. It's the speed of light, which is why they're using super. Okay? So they're getting that information at the speed of light. then the computational deciphering is done at the speed of light. Voice-to-skull harassment that is sent back to the victim based of what the text was, okay, concerning what the victim was processing auditorily internally. When you say to yourself, I'm going to go to Walmart, audio cortex is hearing that. The computer that's interfacing with the brain is sending dialogue, it grabs a hold of that information because it's interfacing with the audio cortex. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to go to Walmart, the computer out in real time. It crunches that data by translating voice to text, then the computer reads out the text almost instantaneously, literally at the speed of light, and then it instructs through a subcommand to transmit back to the victim through voice to skull. Why is he going to go to Domino's? What's wrong with him? That's why gang stalking victims are saying they're being harassed about all their thoughts. Absolutely. Now, there's many reasons why this is done, and there's many reasons why this same type of be spit back to the victim. Because, see, if you've been a victim for 18 years and you hear identical types of responses, but yet based on different things the victim might be doing, like, because look at that sentence. Why is he go to Domino's? Why is he going to pick up his charger? Why is he smoke a cigarette? Why is constantly repeated along with other separate dialogue, because the victim is harassed about everything. But the victim is still hearing, why is he going to? Because you got to remember, the computer has got the ability to decipher verbs, pronouns, nouns, adjectives, and so on. So it knows the context. A verb is responsible for what? Actions. Nouns for person, places, and things. So if you're dealing with a thing like your pack of cigarettes, it's able to see that it's processed in a noun, and so then the computer knows what type of dialogue to structure together in a sentence, then use voice to skull to harass the victim about the context of processing. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to pick up my pack of cigarettes, because you're seeing that, the computer is seeing that you're seeing the pack of cigarettes, and then it's been programmed to execute the sub of transmitting back through voice to skull. Why is he picking up his package? Gang stalking victims are reporting being harassed about every single thing they think and every single thing they do, and if they believe that the victim has adapted to where it's no longer exciting any electromagnetic response, it excites or monitoring the attention of victims. Anytime a human being is approached by anybody or visually, they got your immediate visual and auditory attention. Well, they need your attention. They need to grab your attention in order to excite the electromagnetic response that they're for. They fiend for it. Responses is what this is all about. Responses to excite a thinking response, to excite an emotional response, and to create auditory and visual brain entrainment. Why do you think gang stalking victims are saying that they're experiencing electromagnetic dreams? Because these 6 satanic horrors got the ability to send visuals and visual streams to the visual cortex. And why are all these synthetic dreams nothing but massive, extreme, depraved violence, bestiality images, seeing children being raped, massive violence, seeing women being raped? It's sick, demonic shit. Google my statements, baby cakes. Okay, so when you are sleeping, you're in an unconscious mind. So they're creating visual entrainment to the unconscious hemisphere to a disassociation, because the mind is realizing it's enduring trauma, okay, and so therefore the mind goes into an immediate disassociated state while it's in an unconscious state, and the visual imagery is being trained to both. So at any time, the victim can be walking through the neighborhood, and if they see anything propped up, any visual attribute of the dream, it can stimulate that visual entrained pathway. Then enables them, because it's through association, okay, and correlation. So that then enables them to neurally hack the victim through that way to excite the disassociated state and to excite the unconscious mind, which is your right hemisphere. And remote neural monitoring loves to neurally hack you through the right hemisphere. Absolutely. Why do you think voice to skull can be 24/7 against each victim? Because they're also trying to make sure it doesn't engage in any normal thinking processes or critical thinking processes. Why? then the victim is using their own neuronal activity, and whenever the victim is doing that, that then causes the remote neural monitoring to fall off the victim. Because you got to remember, when they're entraining your brain visually and auditorily, they're doing it and then constantly repeating the same exact identical repeated behaviors through voice to skull in order to create the auditory entrainment. Okay? So, in order to create a potentiated frequency output from that entrained network that it eventually becomes, because when you're experiencing something that makes you mad, your brain is going to experience anger. So that's an emotion. If you're experiencing a massive directed energy weapon attack to the brain, that's going to instantly to go into a traumatized state and into a disassociated state and in like the limbic system, because that's responsible for self-preservation. So you got now entrained pathways to a brain state, to a disassociated state, to the limbic system. Okay? Well, you do most of your executive functions through your neo and prefrontal cortex lobes. Well, the limbic system can excite or motivate you into critical thinking responses, but they don't want critical thinking because that gets in the way of the entrainment. They want you into an instinctual mode. Okay? It makes it easier then for them to trick the brain into believing other manipulation that's going on during a staged event, that they're manipulating you to behave in certain ways during that event. See, when they're staging an event against you, once they got you neurally hacked and neurally hacking onto an entrained pathway that's the limbic system, well, they can stimulate the limbic system to be extremely active during the stage. And then during a staged event, they can engage in what is known as voice to skull with voice morphing to get you to think you're having your own thought about how to respond during that event. Okay? So they can set you up to put you in jail and then maybe eventually in a group home by claiming you're a threat to yourself or others. Right? For illegal probate control schemes, for racketeering schemes, insurance fraud schemes, and stage rapes, once you're put in a group home. Money off of every ankle. And trust me when I say that gang stalking crime will continue in these homes. But the victims is treated like a straw person for mass for 30, 40 years at a time, every day. Oh, that's fucking literally. I mean, they're own homes, go to YouTube and type in Stockton, San Antonio. So the point being is that when they want to entrain pathways, they want to do it to the right hemisphere, which is responsible for unconscious awareness, while also having a, see, because you can have an entrained then networks out into a entrained neural network, and then the network streamlines into brain states, to a disassociated state, to the limbic system. Now it becomes a network, and then once they keep repeating the same exact identical or harassments that are connected to the entrainment, it then that entrained neural network creates what is known as an extremely potentiated frequency output attached to it. That way, anytime in the future, when anything that is a the context of that neural pathway is represented, it will frequency to fire remote neural monitoring latches onto it so they can neurally hack you to neurally influence you during a staged event. So that's why do you think there's so much visual and auditorial going on in gang stalking, whether it be through the community-based harassment, whether it be through the remote neural monitoring, which can include also the synthetic dreams, because they're creating the entrained pathways and neural networks for them, so then they can assure for neural hack. Because consider this, say if you walk down a street and you get to a bus stop and they're at the bus stop that's got an image on it, and that image could be related to something that you might have been experiencing during a torture event. That's going to excite the associated state related to that torture event, literally. So type in the media and gang stalking, okay, radio stations, the fact that they can use your YouTube videos, literally. Oh, and you I've seen and heard about what I've seen exposed about that. I heard on national radio shows that was covering this crime, where victims have called up and said that they got things coming out of their radio as they're listening to a national radio show. Literally. And then you got to look at all their organized crime syndicated partners within the media. We all know, if you're educated by now, you should know that the media is totally controlled by rats. Oh, absolutely. All over the world, not just in America, but all over the world. If you don't think the deep state is not connected to the media, then you are not educated concerning this issue yet. Oh, absolutely. You got to understand something. Remember this well. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of victims of gang stalking all over America. And each one of them is being set up for eventual exploitation, including lifelong exploitation from child to death. Okay? So you got to make sure that you entrain people to make sure that in order to do the neural hacking, you got to entrain the brain so that the excitation of those ways and neural networks can take place anywhere. Let me give you a sidebar. Now, check this out. What do you think when you go to Google? Let me see what time it is. What do you think when you go to Google and you type in at Google? In fact, before I say this, let me get up and move my chargers and let's see if this phone gets frozen. So give me about a minute. Oh! Oh! Almost there, baby cakes. Hold on. Alright, I'm back. Alright, now, so, one thing you should understand about this technology is that when you turn on your TV, and you watch a movie, you're able to make sense of what's going on in the movie pertaining to the story because of what you hear and what you see, right? This is how the brain processes information because you're being shown content, and that content is text, and the context allows you to understand the meaning of what's laid out. Well, that's the same thing that's going on in gang stalking crimes in part in reference to the neural influencing. Because if you, let's say if you make a woman homeless connected to this crime, and then over time, there's no sense in continuing to rent apartments because your apartment will be broken into, including when you're sleeping. They'll make sure you know it too by leaving a calling card. Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, go to YouTube and type in Stalked in San Antonio. Okay, you'll be harassed through clever means while you're renting the apartment, and then you will eventually be made homeless from it. Intentionally, creatively, overtly let you know that that even including while you're moving out because you've been made homeless from the apartment, they will intentionally let you know that the cause of you being a victim is stalking. Because the only way, you got to remember, this crime needs correlation. It needs association to produce the brain states, to produce the thinking responses, to produce the emotion responses, and because it's all about responses, baby cakes and sweethearts. So, all right, now hold on one second. Now, so you got to understand that when you're watching a movie and you see the movie playing out from the beginning to the end, everything you see throughout that movie leads you to the understanding of the storyline. Sometimes a movie will you can, like, within the first half hour, you're going to see where the movie's going. Okay. But in some other movies, though, like suspense movies, you might not the whole entire situation until the end of it. Well, in gang stalking, what they can do when they create the homelessness of a woman, the woman no longer has a door that prevents people from walking through that door. If you break into a woman's home while that woman's awake, turn anyway or rob her or whatever, and then that woman sees who's doing it, that woman can then call the police and say, this was a crime, home invasion. But when you're homeless, all they got to do then is use a homeless person to approach you, and all that homeless asshole's got to say, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were here. And then and then they'll play out a skit. They're called, Google all my descriptions to gang stalking. And then they'll play out a skit. And the skit will be, and the people who are using this homeless person are told what to say, what to do, what not to do. Now that host, the one who's using, they know the victim's got a tape recorder. They know the victim's got a phone. They know when that phone's on or off. They know the victim's got a camera. So if they watch thousands of my videos, between Periscope videos that are online, in my blog included, and YouTube, well, I made massive amounts of videos that show me state that I wear running recording tape recorder on me at all times. It's recording right now. Okay? So, if you got a gang stalking victim, so these perpetrators through cyber surveillance, they can see you made those videos, see what you're saying. So when they stage an event against a homeless woman that they know's got and all these other recording capabilities, then they're going to very carefully tailor that event so no immediate or so no proof at all would showcase that the event was taking place through gang stalking. Meaning that he's not going to do anything verbally that would suggest that this is a staged event. But it'll let you know that it was a staged event by engaging in a specific physical gesture. Making a certain sound that the victim has been sensitized to. In fact, check this out. If they influence that person, say if they want to nearly influence any person who's got recorded during a staged event at a wooded area, then all they got to do is entrain that brain to be sensitive to landscape noise that can happen across the street. So research the following to the sensitization method, because the sensitization make you sensitive. They make you sensitive through the correlation and the association, which then assists in the entrainment. It's all about exciting the entrained pathway for the neural hacking and the electromagnetic responses, right? For the neural hacking. So, say if you got a staged event against a woman or a man who's been made in the area, all these little satanic bitches got to do, if they already got that victim entrained to the audio sound of landscape noise, or somebody knocking, or a motorcycle. Okay? All my descriptions to Google those descriptions to the sensitization method of gang stalking. You gotta remember, auditorial and visual entrainment are the two main things going on against gang stalking victims through the community-based harassment. So if you and then look at the two main features of remote neural monitoring gang stalking: seeing through your eyes and hearing through your ears, visual and auditorial, right? So say if you got a victim who went through a whole year and a half of being bombarded with a bunch of different types of sounds that were first separate and then blended together for double binding, which is add more than one thing for you to be sensitized to the original thing, so you'll see the correlation that this new thing is now connected to gang stalking, which is how they create the entrainment, through the correlation, through the association. So you understand that as you research sensitization extensively, as well as dark neurolinguistic programming techniques and the direct conversation. So say if you got a gang stalking victim who's been auditorily entrained to where the brain recognizes that this motorcycle muffler that's going by is going by intentionally because of gang stalking. Okay? So then that creates the thinking response, the emotion response, that then starts to create the neural pathway, and then when they constantly repeat it thousands of times, then the brain becomes auditorily massively entrained. That creates the potential from it. Therefore, in the future, whenever any identical motorcycle sound goes by, it will stimulate that response. So say if the victim's sitting by themselves in their own normal natural behavior, and then they say to themselves, well, let's stage this event, and we want to neurally victim to act out during the event through remote neural monitoring. And the way we do that is through the neural hacking. The neural hacking takes place by exciting the potentiated frequency output of the neural pathway and or network. In order to excite that potentiated frequency to and then identify it to latch on it for the neural influencing, they got to present the stimuli that's associated with it, the motorcycle. All right, listen to what you hear right now. I don't know how well you're going to hear it. Hold on. Okay, now there's an airplane in the sky right now, and then it sounded like either a type of loud vehicle went by. Now, if you go to Google and you extensively figure out how sensitization is formed, it's formed through massive repetition. Like one victim can have airplanes going over the wooded area, okay, non-stop every single time they're at a wooded area for over a year, where the brain is being just constantly bombarded with it. And then while that's going on, they can then mix other sound harassment that the victim's already been sensitized to. So the brain is both those sounds at once, and it's creating its own correlation that then causes the auditory entrainment. So if you got a person in a wooded area who's minding their own business, not doing nothing illegal at all in any way, okay, he's not drinking or doing anything wrong, they're sitting there by themselves, and they think to themselves, the host of the crime says, well, let's stage an event against this person so we can cause trauma, so we can rob the person, or so we can blame the victim on a certain behavior that we can neurally them into acting out through remote neural monitoring, neural influencing, and to influence them to act in certain ways. We got to be able to neurally hack them. So we'll prop up the sound stimuli to excite the auditory entrainment, to excite the potentiated frequency output, so they can latch on it, neurally hack the victim to neurally influence them during a staged event. So why do you go to Google and you type in at Google landscape noise, airplane noise, helicopter noise, car muffler noise, loud vehicle noises, lawnmower noise, to gangster sound harassment? Do you connect it to the sensitization method? Do you really believe that's an accident? Do you really believe that's an accident? Because you got to understand something. No, if a person who's been, let's say if a guy by the name of Joe is in trained like this, and he goes to a dime store to get some water, some popcorn, whatever. Going to a store to get these types of whatever he wants to get. And he goes to the store, and then they're tracking him in real time. Remote neural monitoring, one of the main conduits that's reported that it's operating through. If the victim's been made homeless, they can prop up a Wi-Fi box and hide it anywhere physical proximity of that victim's place. At the woods, literally. I've even seen that showcased in a movie one time. Hold on. Oh, literally. Literally. Hold on a second. And I've already explained that in some of my prior videos dedicated to town or a couple other ones that I got. So, say if the victim goes and when you're standing outside or inside of any store or standing right outside of it, Wi-Fi signals are right there from that store or adjacent businesses. So as the victim is approaching the business itself, maybe they just got approaching the door. Maybe they're right outside the store and they're locking up their bike, right? So all they got to do then is prop up a syndicated whore who's either a landscape worker who's being used to stand around the victim using his leaf blower. Now that leaf blower is dedicated to one of the sound harassments that the victim has viciously endured nonstop for 2.5 years, right on around the areas. So then the brain recognizes it, it fires the response, onto you, okay, either through the store's Wi-Fi or a projected Wi-Fi signal that can be placed in the area by somebody who's carrying a Wi-Fi box in their backpack. That's how bad this crime is. So the influencing takes place during the staged event, which means that the victim can be hit with voice morphing concerning how they can respond to somebody going off on them or bothering them or standing around them, doing things that are extremely suggestive that could be threatening. Why do you think they use so many against me at wooded areas and at lawns and routes and along my routes? Why? Because they wanted to anchor a type of person. And you got to also remember this, and consider this. What did I say a few minutes ago about the cigarettes? So they can take a picture of who they're going to use. So say if they go to a homeless shelter and they want to set up the guy as well as the victim, because the middleman can be used between both. So check this out. Later here real fast. You need to hear this. Oh, absolutely. So check this out. Say if they've used homeless men and or women, okay, against a particular homeless woman that they made homeless. But they can do this too. But they can do this to anybody who's a victim of gang stuff. They don't have to be homeless or not, because they can use a homeless person against you outside of businesses, at bus stops, bus routes, anywhere. Anywhere. I think the stalking of gang stalking is illegal tracking. Okay? So, I lost my later, so bear with me a second. So, now what did I say about the Winston cigarette situation? I showed you a pack of Marlboros. Well, just picture that pack of Marlboros, pack of Winstons, and the victim smokes Winstons, right? So check it out. Now, say if you take a picture of a homeless person from a shelter, somebody who doesn't have no friends, family, or money, or job, right? So you take this homeless person and you want to set him up and the victim up. Okay, because when they stage an event, they'll also stage witnesses. So check this out. They can take the homeless guy by and through a person who's standing 100 feet away by his camera, and he takes a picture of the homeless guy, right? And then they can take that picture of the homeless guy and put it in the computer, right? And then what they can do, they can instruct that computer through a subroutine command so that victim's eyes sees the homeless guy approaching them as he's being used during a staged event. The victim's eyes see it, the visual cortex sees it, that visual back to the computer, and then the computer, when it sees the picture, executes the command that it's supposed to execute as a result of the picture being seen. Remember what I said a minute ago about facial recognition? Now, so what can be that command that the computer sends back to the victim when it sends the visual image of the person he's seeing in front of him? So let me backtrack this for a second and bear with me, because I'm looking for my lighter and know what the hell happened to it. And so just bear with me a second. I apologize for the interruption. Let me get up and get my other lighter, so bear with me a second, okay? No, I shouldn't be smoking. So let me give you an example. I'm going to give you this example, and then I'm going to give you one other one. I want to some stuff going down when it comes to these 6 satanic mass murdering, human trafficking, okay? So, say you got a son or a daughter, pictures of your son or daughter all throughout the different years of them going to school. School will take pictures of your kids once a year, okay? And then you start creating a family album. Well, you got that visual picture of your child when he was 10, So if you take a visual picture of your child, and you can imagine in your mind what they can be doing with gang stalking victims is that when they want to set a victim up, and maybe even the homeless person that they're using, is put a picture of the homeless person they're using in the computer. Then when the victim gets to the door, okay, the homeless person will be told to appear in the visual view, in the visual line of sight of the victim, in their field of view, so that the victim is forced to see them. Now, when the victim sees what the victim sees, that imagery goes back to the computer of the remote neural monitoring. It's then programmed to execute a function instantaneously as that visual imagery, as a result of that visual imagery being seen by that was sent to the computer from the victim's eyes. So as soon as that executed function takes place, which can be what? Voice to skull. Homeless guy's here. What's going to happen? Because they're sending that back to the skull and voice morphing so that they can create auditorial entrainment to a visual representation in real time. And so that since it's an identical act, because he could be putting his hands, okay, physical gestures are also visual entrainment. Okay, so when you research physical gestures into the sensitization method, you understand that. And why do you think all the physical gestures that are being propagated stalking victims are everyday things that anybody can do and have complete plausible deniability concerning why they're doing it, including sounds that people make, like coughing, clearing your throat, whistling, clapping, okay, putting your hands to your hands to your face, to your mouth, to your nose, taking your hat off, stroking your hair back, putting the hat back on, tipping the brim of the hat, putting your hand over your stomach, putting both hands behind your back. Google all those to the sensitization method. So these are things anybody can do anywhere, and they can be easily explained away. Oh, I itched my nose. Oh, I put my hand to my mouth because I was thinking about something. Okay? Oh, I behind my back because I was just feeling nonchalant and wanted to stand there and what I'm looking at or whatever. Okay? So what you got to understand here is that all the things that they're the great majority of things they're sensitizing victims to, I'd say at least 90% of them, are everyday things that everyday people do and can be easily propped up and have total plausible deniability, but the victim knows that it's gang stalking. Because when those things were anchored in the victim's mind, they were either built off of an original anchor, a stimuli, or they were an anchor that was related to a traumatic event. Meaning that, let me backtrack. When they create a traumatic event, they create associations through correlation of something see and or hear. Then that thing is repeated along that victim's route for years at a time. Then as that's being repeated, they can add other stuff onto it for you to see and or hear. Then those things they add onto it become correlated to the initial act, to the initial anchor created to the initial act. Okay? And that's classical conditioning connected to operations connected to the sensitization method of gang stalking. Google all my statements. So anything the victim hears, anything the victim sees is being read out by the computer and programmed to execute a function to go, and that function is something then is transmitted back to the victim for the victim to either see and or hear and or, which can include voice to skull and voice morphing about how to act based on what they're seeing or hearing. Okay? So let's say if they've used 3 different people to assault a man or a woman who's homeless, and then other homeless people the victim in and around stores, including in threatening ways, well, then they know that victim's going to start becoming accustomed to what a looks like and the fact that homeless persons are used in staged events. That way, the victim who's been sensitized to these types of physical representations and acts that they're told to make, whenever those types of people, because a lot of people are homeless. By the way they look, some of them are dirty. I'm not being vicious or anything against homeless people. Most homeless people are just innocent people. Homeless people are being used in gang stalking, whether they're aware what they're doing is gang stalking related or not. Okay. So when they continually prop up homeless people in the way they look, and they'll even intentionally dress people certain ways too. Google that, how they dress people up to look certain ways. Oh, absolutely. I've even seen the post online. So they'll even dress people up who are not homeless to make it appear so that how they look, it would lead people to believe that they're homeless. Okay? Literally. So then, if you've been living in a large homeless population for more than a year, you know what I'm talking about. So many ways. So check this out. Especially street people not living in vans or cars. Okay? So when you use street people who are homeless to attack victims, and also additional street people who look certain ways at many different businesses who engage in behaviors that strongly suggest that the victim might be attacked again, then this type of visual imagery that is usually associated with homeless people starts becoming visual entrainment. Now, you remember, every single time they prop up a physical person to gaslight a victim through the sensitization method, they can also, the computer that's hearing what they're saying and or sounds they're making and or seeing they're making, that the computer is reading it out. And then when the computer reads it, instantaneously can send something back to the victim, including through voice to skull and voice morphing, like, oh, this is just another idiot. Oh, this is just another maggot. Oh, I'm going to finally say something to this guy. Because this crime tricks you into believing that every single person that's doing this to you is part of the same crime network that had you raped. If you've been raped connected to this crime, because when the rape was happening, they're doing things for you to see and hear. Things for you to see and hear are just repeated through innocent people. Through duped idiots that they're using. Okay? But since you don't have enough educated knowledge yet about this crime, you end up thinking that the same person that's repeating the same act is directly connected to the same people who were raped, because the people who had you raped did this same specific thing. But the reason why that is because when you were being raped, you were being traumatized, and therefore disassociation was created, and then the entrainment of the visual act and what you've seen and heard became visually entrained to that disassociated state. So when they repeat during a rape, that's going to stimulate the disassociation. Therefore, you're not into critical thinking mode. You're into the limbic system mode. They now have excited and entrained pathway to where they can nearly hack you, and you're in a disassociated mind state. They cannot have critical thinking on when they're trying to neurally influence you through voice to skull and voice morphing. Okay? So these 6 satanic fucking bitches can easily set up anybody at any time, because this crime is extremely invasive. It's extremely criminal to the maximum extreme, because if they can trick any to believing they're having their own thought about how to respond during a stage prop, how are you going to prove it's a stage prop? It's a stimuli they use is something everybody does. Say if they set up a victim in a store with his business, and the only thing that appears the guy's doing right before the victim goes off on him is putting his hands to his nose. And then as soon as that hand is seen going to the nose, it transmits that visual image back to the motherfucking computer. And then the computer executes the subcommand of voice to skull with voice morphing to the victim to trick the victim into believing they're having their own thought in real time concerning how to respond to the event. And then the victim acts on that thought and gets set up. You know, they can transmit something like through voice to skull and voice morphing, like, I'm sick of this shit, I'm going to find person. And then this person is told if they say anything to you, before they even arrive, they're told if this victim says anything to you, deny it, call him crazy, go get the manager, call the police, and then the stage witnesses will play their role. And this is how they're setting people up all over the country. Another sidebar illustration, if you went to YouTube and you typed in at YouTube, homeless man shot by police, pulls knife. Homeless man pulls knife, shot by police. Homeless guy that was killed out here in California a few years ago. Okay? Now, targeting the homeless population. Now, when you go to Google and you type in stimulated responsive implants that are being put in the feet of victims, all they got to do is put a stimulated responsive implant in your feet. Let me give you an example about how they can be used, and then I got to let you. So consider this and consider it well. Now, so I went up and got my lighter, but now I've misplaced my cigarettes. All right, now hold on a second. I don't know what the hell. Oh, I know. It's because I ran out. So now I gotta get, well, just forget it, I ain't gonna get up. I'll just wait and smoke after I get done with it. So, let me give you an example about how your feet and musculatory system in your legs operate in the get up and go. Okay? So, remember earlier in this video I talked about automatic responses? If you're sitting at a bus stop and everything's quiet or everything's normal and naturally going on around you, and then all of a sudden you hear this big bang like a car crash behind you, out of the blue, all of a sudden. Well, that noise is already registered in your mind to be connected to a car accident, and since it's so loud, it might be very close by you, so your right brain's going to hear it, it's going to nudge your left brain to danger, and it's going to cause you to immediately get up. That's an automatic response, okay, which happens seemingly instantaneously. Now, that's an automated response done through the get up and go response, where your brain immediately to you danger because it hears a car crash seemingly, it signals the brain for the conscious awareness to make the thing get, you can even be unconsciously nudged to get up, meaning that once you hear it, your immediate response is to get up without even seemingly have the get up, right? Well, the get up and go response is an automated response that is hardwired within the human brain, connected to the self-preservation system of the brain. It's the most primitive reptilian of our human brain. It's the size of an almond or a walnut. It's the most inner part of the physical part of your brain, the limbic system, and it's dedicated for self. And your unconscious awareness, which is your right brain, is dedicated to noticing around you, no matter where you're at, including even when you're with your family or your loving spouse. Okay, your right brain is dedicated to absorbing what's going on around you while you're doing other things for threat assessment, because evolution your brain to be this way, because our ancestors were literally fighting mammoths, big gigantic tigers, and so on and so on. So through the human evolution of the human family, the human biology has been hardwired in certain ways, so specific features and functions of regions of the brain enable us to go into immediate automated responses when the brain is signaling you to do so as a result of the brain noticing something that can be threatening, which it's called the get up and go response. It plays a role with your feet. It's a specific electrophysiological signal that the self-preservation part of the brain to the feet that causes you to get up and go. Like if somebody's coming at you in a real threatening way, you're going to instantly get up. That's the get up and go. Whether you go 1 foot or 10 feet or 100 feet. Okay? So, it's massively apparent when you're in a fight, fist fight. The get up and go response tells your boxers, okay, engage in a lot of get up and go responses. This part of the ring to the other. The feet is the signal of the feet telling your feet to do this. Now, why is this important? How could this be important? Now, is organ harvesting connected to gang stalking? Every crime is connected to gang stalking. So if you want to target a homeless man to set him up to murder, to get a hold of his kidney or his liver or his eyes or his heart, you got to be able to make it appear that that homeless man died through natural reasons. Car, so you can't stage a vehicle accident, Google that to gang stalking. So you might want to send them up to an organized crime cop, or maybe a cop who's being neurally influenced through remote neural monitoring, because cops are also targeted. Oh, absolutely. So check this out. So I'm not necessarily saying that that's what happened to this guy that got killed in California a few years ago, but there is a line that shows this guy, he seemed to be on a hill, and the cops are coming towards him, and he seemed to be acting belligerent, and then he pulled out a knife. Now, what could have been going on in that guy? Okay? Look, they're putting prosthetic implants in the arms and hands so they can control your arms and hands, just like they control an artificial limb that are being put on war veterans that are coming back who've had their arms and limbs blown off. So Google prosthetic implants. What the hell do you think that's connected to gang stalking for? Not just for transhumanism, human experimentation, figuring out how to make the arms and hands move so they can better enhance the prosthetic implants, but also to arms and hands so they can control your decision making about how to use your arm and hand during, so they can claim you threw a punch at somebody if they got the ability to control your arms and hands. So go to YouTube and type in remote control. Go to YouTube and type in, or Google and type in remote control the mark by Nicholas 1968 YouTube channel, and watch that video. You're literally going to see a person can control the hand and arm of another person through cloned acts of the one hand and arm of the other person, because they got electrodes on them. Implants that are put in gang stalking victims are put under the skin, not on the skin. So, if you want to set up a homeless person to have him killed by and through a cop who's either a syndicated cop or a neurally controlled cop, okay, or through a robbery or whatever, all you got to do is excite to make it appear that person was hostile, and then cause him to make him believe that somebody is threatening to you. Because these fuckers can use voice to skull with voice more time. If the homeless guy was ever arrested before, they can, by knowing his record, they can transmit through voice to skull with voice morphing into his head to make him think he's having the thought of, oh no, not this again. I ain't putting up with this shit. So I'm going to finally start getting. He could have also been a gang stalking victim who knows that the cops are targeting him. And since you know that the cops are targeting him, what they try to do is they try to trick you into believing it's your own thought, and they do that by creating context that's related about surrounding the dynamics of things going on into your life, and or things that have already happened to you in the past. So if they use a lot of homeless people against one woman, and then they use another homeless person against them, they know that the victim is homeless people against you, so then they'll transmit through voice to skull, oh no, not another homeless taking this shit no more, so I gotta finally say this. And then they use voice to skull with voice morphing to trick the victim into believing that what they're gonna say is their own thoughts about what to say. Literally. Okay? So they can trick anybody into thinking and acting on those thought responses. And while this is going on, they can simultaneously stimulate the stimulated responsive implant in the bottom of the foot that's responsible for that's connected to the electrophysiological get up and go response, which is an automated response. So if a cop is approaching a homeless guy is being hit with voice to skull with voice morphine, ain't taking his shit no more. They can then he just guy has this thought to pick up his knife. That could be voice to skull with voice morphine too. Then they can stimulate the foot implant, the stimulated responsive implant, to get him to make him believe that he's getting up and responding to his thoughts. And then the cop shoots him dead. And since it was videotaped on his video camera on his check, he's got a normal appearing reason. Bada boom. You see, what you got to understand, organ harvesting, they can get $90,000 for one kidney. And these are $5 implants. Because they're made in massive. Okay? Why do you think there's so many victims all over America? Why do you think all being set up? Why do you think when you go to Google and type in gang stalking, voice to skull, your thoughts are no longer your own? Why do you think when you type in implants and gang stalking, look at what the hell comes up? In fact, hold on a second, because I'm going to get up and get a book. The title of it. And then we'll let you go. So you see, in gang stalking crimes, let me reorientate my time, and let's see if this video freezes before I show you the book. Go to Google and you type in at Google biorobotization of gang stalking, your mind's going to be blown. I mean, there were hundreds of gang stalking victims who testified before the Bioethics Commission that President Obama created back in 2009, 10, and 11, where hundreds of gang stalking victims testified before the Bioethics Commission about how they were being neurally controlled, about how their body parts were being controlled, about how they were being tortured, and about how they were being gang stalked. So go to YouTube and bioethics. Go to YouTube and type in John Hall Bioethics Commission, gang stalking and or electronic harassment. You'll see the testimony of many of them, and a lot of it's going to sound bizarre, but just Google the descriptions you hear to gang stalking. So let me show you this book, Baby Cake, Sweethearts, and Munchkin Butts. What do you think you see here? Global brain chip and messagens. Nanomachines for ultimate false memories. Written by Dr. Hildegard Staninger. And you can go to YouTube. I'm sorry, hold on, I got a cough. See, there's a lot of white fuzzy stuff that's, I don't know how well you can see it through this video, but you see this little white fuzzy stuff. It's flying around because everything's budding, and it's getting in my throat. Because there's so much of it flying around, it's finally starting to ease up a little bit. Alright, now, hold on. So, now this book, on page 8, talks about the eyelids implants. It shows a couple of them. Okay? Look at it. Oh, wait, hold on. So look at this. So on this book, on page 8, it literally talks about the eyelids implants. Okay? It says, it should also, I'll read it. It says, it should also be remembered that when each one of the readers of this book, first biology course, they learned that the eye was basically of the brain. The eyeball is now being considered as the next logical step in developing technology to interface with the eye through a lens, which is a camera, okay, or even to the insertion of the sensory devices, okay, into the eye for military purposes in creating the super soldier to monitor the gaze for dimensional location terrain for physical combat. Okay? This book also has massive exposures concerning nasal implants. I think it talks about brain-to-computer interface implants. And much. Oxygen stands for the type of materials used that creation of nanotechnology. And what do you see right here in the middle of the brain? A CPU chip. Now go to Google and type in Dr. Hildegard, in the way you see it, Dr. Hildegard Staninger, 1 ONE, 1 Cell Light, Blogspot Radio, Robertson, and Melinda Kidder. And keep typing those words in several interviews through her blogs, okay, that are within the blogs that show her exposing many of the things, okay, that's going on in gang stalking crimes. Many of the things, the nanotech, the brain implants, the manipulation, torture, the manipulation, and so on and so forth. The book literally shows even pictures of the nasal implants, okay, and these are pictures of them at the microscopic level. A lot of them show antennas sticking out from them, and a lot of them also show frequencies that were emitted from them that certain technology was able to capture. These technologies are literally emitting these because they're being interfaced with. That's a fucking literally. So imagine your own body being used against you for entrainment because you got ear implants in you, cochlear ear implants, and or nano audio implants, so they can use those as a conduit for voices called voice morphing, and especially if you don't know about it. Because they can easily set you up and enslave you for 30 years at a time without having a clue. Without fucking having a clue. Absolutely. Without even knowing they're there. Imagine having remote neuromonitoring lens implants in your eyes, including them being in there for decades without you knowing about it. This is literally a specimen from Los Angeles. Okay? In San Diego. This has to do with implants in the nasal system. I mean, look at this. You just would not believe how evil these sick fuckers are. They're the most evil that have ever walked this fucking planet. The U.S. intelligence agencies and the military identified implicated satanic rats who are doing this, working in concert with fusion centers, state, county, and local cops, and then many other cooperating partners like corporate and many others, which is why the community-based, and it's stated, which is why the program, harassment through the community, is done so effectively. Now, to create false memories, that's easy. All you got to do is create, because they can, when you research remote neural monitoring and memory, they can see your memories on their monitor by mapping done through remote neural monitoring, because they're nothing but visual memories to begin with, and so they're basically just deciphering them and putting them on a screen, just like you see in the movie with I forgot that guy's name. Just go to YouTube, movie Paycheck. It's about a guy who does a lot of high-tech work, and he gets hooked up to a machine. Okay, so he can do some espionage against other corporations, so he can steal their data. Other guy can benefit off it, and then the FBI get a hold, and they put him in a chair and start looking at his memories, so they can try and figure out where the hell he was when a certain crime happened, just like in the movie Total Recall, Minority Report. Okay, so when you research memory and memory stimulation, okay, let me give you a fast discussion here concerning that. See, tech that enables them to put anybody's physical image into a computer program. Then they can incorporate anybody or any other thing also into that same software program, so that it will cause your visual image to do anything within the program while it's interacting with things and other people. Their visual images being put in that specific program as well. So they can literally play out a storyline of your visual image within the software program, interacting with people, places. Is this how the artificial synthetic dreams are created? Memory. Well, if you get in your car 10 years after you got married and turn the radio on, you hear your wedding song, your brain is going to experience extremely vague, very fast, instantaneous visual memories of your wedding day, because the auditory stimuli of your wedding day song stimulated those to happen. So why do you think they're going into gang stalking victims' apartments and homes and taking things and replacing them later? Taking things and putting them in another place. Because when the victim comes home and it's gone, they're going to immediately access their memory so they can think, did I put it here or did I put it there? Why would I put it there when I always put it here? That then causes the memory area of your brain to be excited, and while that's occurring, you are being remotely neurally monitored, so they can get a better idea of where your memories are stored by causing you to access your memory bank sets. Absolutely. So they know the area where your memories are stored, and then they can create a visual production through their sophisticated software, and then visual cortex and make you think you're having a visual thought or a visual deduction to many different things. And then like situations and scenarios that they might stage, like when they prop up another homeless man against you, they can image or a visual memory, okay, of a prior event with a homeless person. Do you understand? So that your brain will believe that the voice to skull with voice morphing response, oh, this is just another homeless person engaging in gang stalking again. Okay, believed. Okay? Because your memories can be thought processed when it's got associations connected to them. Just like if you got a kid stealing from you and then you find out your wallet's gone again. The only one that was in the house was that kid. Well, your brain is going to sit back and look at all your memories of the kid's past, right? So, bada boom. But they can create false memories that have, meaning they can create visual imagery of stuff. Okay. And then attach other meanings to it. Other auditorial meaning. They can take one visual imagery, put it within the from a memory, including, put it in the software program, and then attach other visual imagery to it to make you believe in other things. Like if you had a good relationship with your dad and he's about ready to die, or you're having memories of your dad, they can literally create a visual image to make it appear that you were forced to have oral sex with your dad when you were little. False memories. Because what are your visual memories? They're visual representations in your mind of an event. okay, of information. Okay? Want to make sure you never depend on your dad again while he's alive, while you're being gang stalked. They can make you think that you're having a visual memory of your dad sexually assaulting you when you were little, when he didn't. And they know you ain't got to go depend on your dad. Okay? To help keep you fucking isolated. Sick and demonic these wild, filthy whores are. That's why do you think I expose what I do? I expose what I do in order to inform, to expose artificial synthetic dream, to force the brain to experience it all night long. Do you honestly can't create a visual imagery and present it into your mind as you're trying to access memories of your dad in order to make it appear that that's a visual memory when it's nothing but a visual image that they're presenting as a visual memory? That's a fucking lunacy. So you need to get this book. This is one book of hundreds about gang stalking crimes. Even though I don't think gang stalking is mentioned in this book, okay, I'm showing you this so you can see all the different implants. Islands implants discussed. Ear implants, I think, yeah, discussed. Okay, nano implants discussed. Nasal implants discussed. And all the materials used to create these satanic, sick, bitch-ass machines. Nano machines. Things that are billionths of a size. Alright? That they can use to manipulate you. You need to listen to her interviews that are online with Derek Robertson and Melinda Kidder. Google it to One Cell Light, Blogspot Broadcasting, Dr. Hildegard Staniger. You'll find the interviews within her blogs. I know of at least 6 of them. You want to listen to them, baby cakes. She's a very intelligent woman, and she has helped certain gang stalking victims. Absolutely. Concerning testing and stuff. Okay? So, do you really think nothing good in tens of thousands of posts? So thank you for listening, everybody. I wanted to expose these things so you can know how easy it is for some sick, satanic, mass murdering, raping, gang raping, human trafficking, or can manipulate you to act out by neurally influencing you through neural hacking, through brain entrainment, which can take place through normal appearing sounds and normal appearing physical gestures, normal acts that can it doesn't appear naturally that anything bad is going on. Okay, because if they can visual and train pathways so they can stimulate the potentiated frequency output from it, they can then identify it so they can latch onto it for neural hacking, for neural influencing. If that visual imagery is something everybody does, like putting your hands to your face, your mouth, then how are you going to prove that person put their hands, their face, their mouth, and their nose intentionally so can process that visual imagery sent back to the remote neural monitoring so it can then execute the sub-functions of what it was designed to execute, what it was been programmed to execute, back to the victim, like voice to skull with voice morphing, so the victim can execute the event. So they're using visual props and sound props and verbal props to trick the brain so that the computer can then activate and send the victim as a result of the computer reading out that the sound, word, phrase, gesture, okay, or types of person being used during the event is what the computer's been programmed to notice, in order so that once it's noticed, the response is sent to the victim once the computer notices whatever's propped up. And do you think it's an accident that they're sensitizing victims to everyday things that can be propped up in? Why? Because there's fucking video cameras all over the place. For the sake of cops, security guards. If say when you go into these dime stores, these stores where you can get a prescription at, and the managers and employees have been told to say gang in the background while you're in the aisle. Well, yeah, you can catch it on your tape recorder. But if saying gang stalk is caught on your tape recorder, but if it excites an auditorily trained pathway, so they can nearly hack you, so then the computer can read. I'm sorry. So once gang stalk is said, if that victim is experiencing, the ear implant hears it. It sends it to the BCI implant. The BCI implant, okay, notices it being heard through the audio cortex. Information is sent to the computer. The computer then translates speech text, just like Google's translation from when you're using the microphone at Google search box. You say something into it and it comes out in text, internet searches for whatever you said. Same concept. So say if somebody's standing around me and they say gang stalk, or they say oh my god, or they say suck dick, or they say a word that sounds like suck dick. Okay, look how close the word gang sounds like gang stalk. Say gang stalk 100 times and then say GameStop 100 quarter. Playing both back, they both got the same phonics. Okay, same sound. So you can say GameStop around a person who has heard the word gang stalk being said 100,000 times in 9 years being said around them. The phonics of those words is related to the auditory entrainment. So when the victim hears it, the brain-to-computer interface implant that's interfacing with the audio cortex sends what's heard to the computer. It then programs a function like voice-to-skull with voice morphing. Like, if the person perceives the person who said gang stalk is at the end of the aisle, they can send voice-to-skull with voice morphing. I've had it with this shit. I'm going to go approach him and say something. Like yesterday, did I approach a person who was propped up to wear black and white around me? Okay? They're wearing all different types of color coding around gang stalking victims all over America, through color coding, through clothes, things that can be carried, okay, cars. That's visual entrainment. Okay? So, whatever sent back and recognized by the computer that's already been programmed to recognize it, when it recognizes it, it then executes the subcommand, the subroutine functions that get sent about how to respond to the event. So now you know. They can set anybody up anywhere at any time with this sick shit, because they cannot look, even when you know this information, voice to skull and remote hacking happens at the unconscious and subconscious level. So you're not consciously aware of being influenced in this way as it's occurring until after the event. Unless you got some type of visual anchor that you can carry around with you, so that when the event is happening and you see that visual anchor, that will then view of what could possibly be going on, because your remote neural monitoring has also got the features and functions of what? Thought interruption and memory blanking. So you don't process what you know about what's happening in real time as it's occurring. So welcome to the gang of gang stalking, where they're after the responses. And the responses are the electromagnetic responses of the entrained pathways, so they can nearly hack you. Thank you for listening. Everybody have a great day. I hope you learned from this video. Do your research, honeys, sweethearts, and sweet peas, and you will see truth. If you go to YouTube and Google and type in John terrorism, you'll eventually hear in many of his videos that they're intentionally playing back the verbal victim back to the victim, so the victim constantly hears them in a loop. Why? Because that's auditory entrainment. Whenever the brain is forced to see something identical again, that creates visual entrainment. Whenever the brain is forced to hear a sound or a word or stop identically, that's auditory entrainment. Okay? So go to YouTube and type in a YouTube search box, M as in Mary, MTS, gang stalk, oh my god, decay. And look at how many videos show people saying gang stalk, oh my god, and suck dick in the background, and in the background of the places I'm at. And that ain't jack shit compared to the evidence I got on me. Alright, I literally gotta go, because if I don't, I gotta make dinner and get done. So thank you for listening, everybody. Now you know why so many victims all over America are saying that people are being propped up to repeat words, phrases, sounds, statements, how homeless people are used against gang stalking victims, whether they do or not. Okay? How visual popped up, color coding, physical gestures of many kinds related to the sensitization method. Now, do you really think all this is being done for no reason? And what are the two main functions and features of how remote neural monitoring is being used in gang stalking crimes? How they can see through your eyes and hear through your ears. Cochlear ear implants and or nano audio implants. Remote eye lens implants. I strongly suggest you go into the profile to see videos, and you will literally see videos of remote neural monitoring eye lens implants in my eyes. Thank you for listening. Everybody have a great day. I literally got to go, or I'll just keep on talking. I got to go.